Alright, so this is how my life runs. I spent a bunch of time making custom headlights for my wife's Solara because we needed to have some paint work done on the front bumper and the back bumper, and you have to take the front bumper off to put the lights in. And when I got it back from paint, check this out. Really? So I never really considered how a trunk closed before this, but yeah, when we gave him this car, it actually closed as perfectly as it possibly could. Just the slightest little touch, it'd go down and it would latch. Or you shut it like normal, it would latch. You'd slam it, it would latch, and now only slamming works. And so I'm guessing it's this gasket. I messed around with it a little bit when I picked up the car, and so did he. He didn't know what he did. He said he didn't really touch anything back here, but clearly if you give somebody a car and trunk shuts well and then you get it back and it doesn't, you must have done something, right? So I've decided to just clear everything out of the way. I'm going to pull these plastics out, these plastic pieces out, and I'm going to pull out the trunk, this rubber gasket around here, and then see how it shuts. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and take the carpet out first. That way I can vacuum it. Let's see how the trunk shuts now. Yeah, that's what I thought. Alright, so out comes this thingy. Well, it just occurred to me. This can't come out. It's got the trunk things in the way. Trunk supports are in the way. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, well. Alright, here we go. Well, that worked. Okay, it's working fine now. I just barely even touch it. Doesn't sound good because there's no rubber gasket, so clearly the rubber gasket is a problem. Behold. Just like it should. And it wasn't that hard. I will show you what the problem was in case you have this same issue. So here it is. As it turns out, this was going on like that. And it pushed down nicely, but you see how the rubber sticks out? It had to go under the bumper cover, and I guess that's why he messed it up, because he put on the bumper cover and then he probably put this on, and he should have done it the other way around. So once I stuck it up under there, all the way up around here, and then it starts to come out, and it sort of does its own thing, right? Then it, that is so nice. It's such a little thing, but it's really handy to have it working properly again. So there you have it. It's pretty easy. That may have been obvious to most of you, I guess, but it wasn't to me. So if it wasn't to you, I hope it helps somebody. But I do have a top tip on vacuuming the carpet in the back. I'll show you now. Alright, so regrettably, we have a cat. I hope you don't have a cat. But if you have a cat, or if you just get these fibers, I hope you can see it right there at the tip of my finger. My dirty finger is a little fiber, and they seem to want to cling to the carpet quite nicely, and they don't want to come off. I have two things here. This belonged to my father. It is a lint brush, and it's one of those things where if you brush one way it collects, and if you brush the other way it comes off. It doesn't always come off, as you can see there. And the other is this, which is nothing more than which is nothing more than masking tape that's in the shape of a roller, and you just roll it across and it sticks to that. If you use that, it will pick up most of these little tiny fibers and make your vacuuming job look a lot better. I don't think you can hear that, but outside my house is Hurricane Dorian at the moment. It's really not that bad. It's a bit of strong wind, a little spittle of rain here and there. Nothing compared to some summer storms we go through. However, the real damage happened leading up to Dorian. I have to say, barring loss of family and friends, it's been probably two of the worst days of my life. And I'll explain that to you. Please hang in there because I have an important message at the end. It's very hot in Florida. I've mentioned it many times. The humidity makes it horrible, and I know it can be just as bad in other areas of the country, but the fact is, it can be even dangerously hot. And I've spent the last couple days in preparation for this storm, going from store to store, competing with other people to get some resources, unprepared people, and not finding what I needed and having to go to another store, and then fill my tank up with gas to make sure it was there, and finally installing the shutters. So my house has professionally installed shutters, and they don't take too long, maybe 2.5, 3 hours to put up. But I had to do a second house that didn't have a system, and we decided to install one now so that it would be easier in the future. This was an estimated 4 to 6 hour ordeal, and when we first started, it certainly seemed like that was going to work out that way. We bought the pieces at Lowe's. They're just standard length, so they're not real custom fit, but you can make it work. And let me show you how they work. This is a shutter that's a pretty common design in Florida. There are many different kinds of shutters, but I'd say this one is the most common after plywood because it's less expensive. This one actually is a little more expensive because it's plastic, but most of these are aluminum, and my house has them aluminum and just a few of these for light. And you can see that there is a hole here on one end and a slot on the other, and in fact it goes this way. And what you do is you put in, you drill 4 holes with a special bit into the concrete on your house, and then you take a special tool and you install an anchor and you hammer it into place, and it spreads out and grips the concrete, leaving you with a threaded hole. Then you take a very wide headed screw and you put it into that hole and you leave it out a little bit on each corner, and then you hang the shutter and slide it down onto the slot, tighten it down. The second panel overlaps the first panel, so they share hole and they share a screw, and you continue in that fashion. The panels we bought were such poor quality that those holes did not line up. In fact, the panel was also bowed. If it's bowed this way, you can force it onto the wall and bend it back out, right? If it were bowed this way, the same thing. You could bolt it at the top, push it in, bolt it at the bottom, push it in at the top, straighten it out. But ours were bowed this way, making it difficult for them to nest inside of each other. And that meant we also had to do a lot of bending and forming to get it to work. The holes were also not at the same place on the ends, and so they weren't lining up, and they have to because they're going to share with the panel next to them. And so we wound up laying them all out and trying to find ones that were the same. And this turned a 4 to 6 hour job into a 14-hour, 2-day job. This happened in the absolute hottest temperatures possible with the highest humidities available. It was miserable. When you drill into the concrete comes out, sticks to your sweat, and creates a nice little crust. And when you wipe your eyes, and you can probably see my eyes are horrible right now because I also have allergies, all that stuff combines to make the perfect storm of discomfort. My shirt was completely saturated and dripping. My shorts were dripping. I brought an entire gallon of water. I drank all of it and didn't use the restroom one time. And on top of all that, I had to choose that time of the year to get a cold. So I'm running around trying to get pieces and parts, maybe even getting other people sick, I don't know, with a sore throat and runny nose. Literally some of the worst days of my life. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because as an American, I'm relatively privileged. I'm middle-class American. If I need to evacuate, I can get in my car and I can drive all the way to California if I want to. However, the people in the Bahamas don't have that option, and regardless of your political bent and whether you think they deserve what they got or whatever, it doesn't make any difference. The point is these people don't have the resources that we do, and they can't escape. They're on a small island, there are only so many flights out, only so many people can afford them, and they had to go through what I went through, only a lot worse. I can only imagine what I went through was nothing by comparison. If you've seen the videos of the destruction that happened
in the Bahamas, you'll know that they got way more than their fair share. They're using terms like the strongest storm in modern history. As a Category 5, it sat on top of them for over 40 hours, going from a 5 to a 4 to a 3, relentlessly pounding them. It is September 4th, 2019. If you're watching this video anywhere near that date, I highly encourage you to dig in your pockets and don't give me any money, give it to them, because they really need it. And honestly, from the videos I've seen, I have no idea how a society recovers from that level of destruction. So if you have any empathy at all, please dig in your pockets, dig deep, find a legitimate organization and donate a little bit of money to them. Give me money tomorrow. Thank you.